I'm Amanda Divito, and this is At the Kitchen Table.
Yep, good.
Thank you. I'm here with Darik Tolnay at CrossCountry Mortgage. He's a lender, a leader, an entrepreneur, my friend. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This is exciting because I know we were talking about, podcasts and just how do we reach a larger audience? Mm-hmm. And it seems like so many people are doing podcasts nowadays that for me, it's exciting to see that you decided to launch one, and I'm super honored to be here.
Well, talking is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
So that's natural for me.
Yeah. Talking used to always be natural for me, and then I think I shared with you, but I was diagnosed with this a brain issue, essentially, like a problem where it's called spasmodic dysphonia. And so it's a neurological disorder that basically only affects one part of your body. It can never spread. But for years, probably about 4 years now, I was like, everybody would keep saying like, man, you sound hoarse. You're probably talking a lot. And I knew inside that it wasn't that. Like, it wasn't that I was just talking a lot or had a hoarse voice. So I went and saw the doctor. Doctor refers me to a speech therapist. Speech therapist is like, look, you could see me every day forever, and it's never going to fix the issue. She says, but I think I know somebody who might be able to help you. And so she referred me to this specialist. There's one of like 3 in the state of Colorado. And he says, yep, you've got this thing called spasmodic dysphonia. So if you're familiar with like, who's the guy who's running the health world?
RFKJ, yeah.
Yeah,
Bobby
so when
Kennedy
you hear
Jr.
him speaking, what's funny is I didn't know he had spasmodic dysphonia, but I could recognize, I'm pretty sure that dude's got what I've got. And so it's tricky because it's something that really affects your self-confidence. And it basically, there's 2 versions of it. One is where you're very breathy, and so it's almost like impossible to get anything out. And then the version that I have, it basically puts a strain on your voice that also makes it difficult to speak. And so I was noticing this, and when I went and saw the doctor, he's like, there's one solution to it. The good news is I can fix it, but you're going to have to come and see me every few months. And I said, well, what is it? And he says, it's Botox. And I started laughing. I go, I'm already familiar with Botox, but
yeah, I got you, brother.
Yeah, but now, so I got to go in there, and it's really a brutal process for 30 minutes where he has to numb out my entire throat. He takes a needle through the front of the neck and has to inject the muscles on either side of my voice box with Botox so that it can hold taut. So I have the ability to actually get the words out that I want to say.
Huh.
And so when the Botox starts to wear off, I can notice it. And then what begins to happen is there's certain words and sentences that it's very difficult for me to get out and punctuate. And so my brain starts looking for alternative words and methods to try to communicate the exact same thing. So when I first was diagnosed and he said there was a solution, I remember calling my wife, and I was in tears.
Sure.
I was so grateful that there was a solution to it. But in an industry where we talk for a living, it can be difficult to not have a voice.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Both metaphorically and physically, you have so much knowledge and such a gift, particularly in the lending space, and your entrepreneurial thought leadership and your invention, that to be able to not, to metaphorically not be able to get that out. Is something that, sort of can feel constraining, maybe a fear around that. So
it's tricky, and I feel like at heart I'm a sales professional.
Sure.
And so, but what I've found is that our business is really ultimately about relationship and providing value, and I think that, we're just in an industry where it's become so much about like, how do I make all this money without having to work? There's so many shiny objects out there. There's 1,000 different lead sources, or so we think they're good lead sources.
Yeah.
And we try to chase it because, let's face it, most people that get into this industry, they get into it because they have the ability to have freedom and flexibility. They can kind of dictate their own calendar, or they think they can going into it.
Yeah.
And that you can make a lot of money. And so who doesn't want the solution where all you have to do is exchange money, and then you get a bunch of leads and you make a lot of money?
Yeah.
But I think we've kind of lost sight of what this business is really about. And what it's really about is building relationships with people and adding value. I mean, think about how you and I met. I mean, before we ever helped a family with the gift of home ownership, we knew each other for how long?
Or even if you do one deal together and then you have an introduction to a longer relationship, it could be a long time before you do another deal.
Yeah.
But that's where those are the foundation blocks of the connection.
Yeah.
And that's right. And it's interesting having been swarming the AI universe in the last handful of months and years, but that there just is going to be this human connection piece. That doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But, all in the same breath I say that, people are putting social media content online that isn't even them.
Yeah.
Very soon, it may be that we've confused people so much about what's real and what's not real and what I actually said and what my real thoughts are. Or what's an AI generated thought and I don't long for a world where this human's authentic thought in this moment at this spot in time in my life is being communicated properly, because that's an altered state. It's how I felt at 25 is different than how I felt at 35 is different how I feel at 45 or almost there. And so I just wonder if there is this overlay that's coming that strips away that connection without us even knowing it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's already happening. And I think it's just, it's become cultural, right? People are more concerned with what's on their phone, but I think it's also creating a situation where there's a lot of depression. There's a massive lack of confidence in people. And a lot of that is because you don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
We have a government that's not being totally transparent with us. So we don't know really what's happening behind the scenes. And so,
but that's even true of your friends and family. Forget the government. I can't even tell if my cousins are being honest on social media or whatever, or my best friends or the people around me. And there's this utopia that isn't utopia, that everybody puts pictures of themselves up having fun, but they don't put pictures of their marriages up falling apart or whatever. And so that's all, it's all optics. And I do think that it's going to be difficult for us to come to a place where we can discern that real from the unreal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll get to that point. I think right now we're still in a place where I think it will breed the desire for more human connection.
For real human connection, to like stand in front of each other. Maybe in fact, you're right, that the kitchen table, the body to body, the belly to belly survives, because then and only then you're getting the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as far as our industry is concerned, it's going to be sort of a combination of both, like I'll call it the old school way of doing things, which is making phone calls and belly to belly, face to faces, break breads with people. That has shifted into this delusional thought of maybe I can just pay for this technology and that's going to solve the problem for me. And so then people spend all their time, as an example, on social, and they're not doing the things that maybe got them clients in the first place. And so you're starting to see a lot of people that made a lot of money and now they're not making as much. And it's because they're forgetting to do the thing that actually got them there in the first place. And they start to believe their own story about themselves, which was, I'm making a ton of money and I'm so good at what I do. But you being great at what you do only has the ability to be shown if you also have the ability to meet somebody and connect with them face to face. And I think that as far as when it comes to AI, I think it's an interesting opportunity, because you're going to have a lot of companies are talking about where they can lay people off and replace jobs with AI. But I think the smart business owners are realizing that it's still about people. How can AI help them create better efficiency? But what it's definitely going to expose, it's going to expose employees that never really brought value to a company or organization, because they're going to now be forced to be better than anybody else.
Well, they're going to be forced to become more productive. If you take a staff person who's doing a job right now and you overlay them properly with an AI tool or a handful of AI tools, a really productive overlay, in theory, those people should be able to increase their capacity. I do worry about the expectation of increasing the human capacity because of more technology. I know it's possible because you've seen the way we can be more productive in your mortgage business and my real estate business by simply having an electronic signing program or something, right? So the simple technology change can make things move, can make the speed of the transaction move faster. And I think good AI overlays on top of good people will make the speed or the ease of the transaction more streamlined. I do worry about sort of these too wordy of encounters because AI wrote something and I don't want to read those. So then it's like, is my AI going to be reading your AI because I don't want to read the long email that your AI put together? So then my AI is just going to give me a summary and it's just going to be back to the one line sentence that I could have crafted to you to tell you I'd be to the closing on time. Like, I just think there's some of this stuff that may go all the long way around the barn to come back to the human connection piece of it. Yeah,
I think the biggest thing with a I'll use a home buyer as an example, is they want to, what's important is how they feel throughout the process. And so, if AI were to replace 100% of what we're doing, how do you think those people are going to feel throughout that process?
Right.
They're going to feel disconnected. They're going to feel like there's not that personal touch.
But I think this is happening, that everything is becoming more transactional, and you know it by watching the home building industry. People used to want a builder to build a house for them. Now the builders build production, and they don't care how you feel about the house. And so the speed, the forced parts of the industry are going to not care about how people feel, and I think that's not right. It just is inevitable, and I think that I'm as much a consumer as I am a producer. And so we're all going to get caught in that, product process that when you buy something, whether it's a car or a loaf of bread or a house or a can of beans, it doesn't matter. I think it's going to be tricky for companies to continue to make people feel good all the time because there's this deception of feeling, which is, do I really feel that way, or have I been manipulated to feel that way?
I think it really comes down to a decision at the individual level, right? I'll give you an example. If you are looking to build a massive company, like we're in the process and about to release an AI chatbot that can operate over the phone. Okay, so I can load a past client database into it. It will call that past client database, and without being able to share it with you yet, I'll just say, like, you don't know whether that is somebody on Darik Tolnay's team or not, or if it's an AI chatbot.
Sure.
It has the ability to process and answer questions that are so nuanced that it's pretty unbelievable. But the technology is still in a place where there's like enough of a pause and a lag time where it's calculating how to respond, where you kind of know it, but it's not trying to be necessarily hidden. So if they say, are you an AI chatbot? The AI chatbot is programmed to say yes.
Right.
Right. But it has the ability to make 1,800 dials per minute. So the reason I say it's going to come down to a decision on an individual level is because if you want to scale, the reality is...
Yes, but everybody will stop answering their phone.
I don't know. There's still people that buy from postcards. There's still people that get snail mail and decide to call. It's a numbers game at that point.
Yeah, well, it's
right?
a saturation.
It's like there's, before Sephora was Neiman Marcus, and you would go there to be pampered, and they'd bring you your latte or your whiskey or whatever while they show you cologne and perfume and shoes. And then Sephora came onto the market and like, you just go in there and buy what you want, and there's none of that. It's very transactional. I think there will always be relational versus transactional, and it's just kind of choosing what side you want to be on and what kind of business you want to develop. And then how do you use AI to help facilitate some of that? Because
it's interesting. That's right. I hadn't considered that, but that the business of real estate is you're either literally going to sign up for the very inexpensive transactional model, or you'll sign up for the Neiman Marcus experience. And some people will continue to pay for the Neiman Marcus experience.
Yeah.
Even in spite of the option of speed of or feeling of transaction. Yeah. The outcome in theory is the same.
Yeah. And right? I think it's, when you ask most people in our industry, like, hey, what would be a financial milestone or pinnacle of success? I think a lot of people would say if I could make 7 figures a year, that would be like, I'd feel incredible. Amazing. Yeah, that'd be the most incredible business ever. Well, you can still make 7 figures a year without any technology. You just have to know who you're calling. You can still build a massive business without having all the extra technology, but how can you use the extra technology to enhance the client experience, but still be involved at the points of sale so that the way the client feels is that you're still involved through the whole process.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's the little part of me that just also still likes to be involved in the process. I don't know. And
I think part of it's because, I think business owners like to have a lot of control over their business in general. And then there are parts that people really love to do, right? Like the reality is going out and showing homes to multiple clients over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think those days are coming to an end.
Yeah, well, and it's not making that agent, that's not what's actually making the agent money. Prospecting is what's making the money, what got them the client in the first place. But some agents go, but I love showing them homes.
Well, or I feel the relationship is deepened during the showing home process, and that's a fact. That when I have a client in my car, our relationship is deepened at that time.
Yeah.
And so even though I have to bring them through a transaction, at the end of the transaction, the worry is if you never had them in your car and you didn't attend the closing table and you really didn't hardly see them face to face, there's less of a connection to them once they start receiving your chatbot calls.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so that becomes tricky because if they get a piece of you during the transaction, I think they are more loyal. And I do think loyalty is on the chopping block right now, big time. It has been for 2 decades. I'm seeing clients with a tremendous loyalty problem right now.
With agents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're distracted and there's squirrels everywhere and things can start to feel transactional even if that's not your intention.
Do you feel like more and more clients are that you're talking with are talking about discount brokerages and kind of what can you do for me kind of thing?
I think people are funny. I have some very, very good past clients and dear friends, like the kind of people you go out to dinner with once a quarter, who walked into a house, bought it with the listing agent, listed their house with him, no call, no text, no nothing. And when I dug in a little bit, I discovered they saved $22,000 on $2.5 million worth of real estate. And I do think they made a calibration that the relationship may go away in exchange for $22,000. And the same reason I won't abandon my friendship with them, that they were able to go buy a house, buy and sell and transact a deal without me, is because their relationship wasn't worth $22,000 to me either. I'll still be their friend tomorrow, even though they bought and sold without me, because for the same reasons they justified that they didn't need my representation are the same reasons I'm justifying that I need their friendship. So there's this weird connection thing that happens. I do think that tipping point in our business where people sort of are going to buy and sell without you, that's a mature place to be in a real estate business. That's an abundant place to be in a real estate business where you can say, I'm sad they bought and sold the house without me. I'm sad they didn't need my consultation. I'm sad they felt like they could do without me, and that my value to them wasn't consequential enough for them to save $22,000.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not willing to sever a lifelong friendship because of it.
Yeah. And that sort of echoes your point about how the industry is moving to be a little bit more transactional, because the reality is that I think more and more agents are going to have to consider, it's one thing to provide value, show value. Here's how what I'm going to do is going to be different or benefit you more than maybe somebody else. Defend your price. But at the end of the day, if somebody's looking at saving $20,000 or $25,000, the simple thing for them to tell us is, I had to think about my family, and $25,000 is a lot of money. And so then it, I think, could create this situation where it's forcing us to go after more volume and more, help more people in a shorter period of time, which even further diminishes the relationship, because there's only so many clients you can handle at a given time.
And the grocery stores made this calibration when they put the self-checkout in.
Yeah.
They
which
knew.
I can't stand, by the way.
They knew that some people want speed and they want to do it themselves. And so they create a section where they used to keep a checker to do 4 people at a time instead of 1. And I think that every industry is being forced to move people through the checkout line more quickly. Yeah. And there's going to be a day where there isn't a single line where you can have a single encounter at the grocery store anymore. And I think that's true broadly across industry.
But I think there's always going to be people like me where I'm like, listen, I didn't come to the store to spend money on your product and then also to have to
bag my own groceries, pay for it by myself, and, scan every single item. There's going to be people that want, I don't know, just that service.
They want service, and they're willing to pay. I would absolutely pay more money if the grocery store chains decided that, hey, we're going to give you 50% off your bill if you go through self-checkout versus full price. I would still probably pay full price, because that's if it's one item.
And 50% is a lot of money, but maybe it's 5. We'll take a 5% discount for you, scan your own shit and get out of here. All right, well, so then there's that calibration. So, it's interesting. You're very entrepreneurial minded. What are the places you're looking around and seeing opportunity, even outside the real estate space, but inside or outside the real estate space, where you think there are real opportunity coming down the pike sort of in the future, maybe some vision planning? What are you seeing?
What I see is a lot of baby boomers that are about to retire.
Yes.
A lot of these individuals have businesses. A lot of them are very successful businesses. They're significantly cash flow positive, but they're not necessarily updated or current. They're not trendy, so you don't think of something like a laundromat or a vending machine or an HVAC company, or some of the specialized services get a lot of publicity because everyone wants to, everyone's looking at starting a tech company and cashing out and making hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think the opportunity is in these individuals that they've run this business for 20, 30 years. They're just kind of at a point where they're like, I don't want to mess with all the technology.
Yeah, that's right.
But I want to retire. And so I think we're going to see a lot of opportunity in other types of businesses where somebody that's smart can come in and they can introduce good marketing. They can introduce AI to expand their service lines or 100%. Their reach.
Cody Sanchez pounds this drum like crazy. Totally. She's brilliant. Yeah. But the point is, I think you're right. And I think there's a lot of businesses, small businesses, of a variety of sorts. It's easy to pin down plumbers and electricians, but it's bigger than that. It's widgets and trinkets of all kinds, family businesses where they manufacture dog food or they manufacture springs or, you name it, it's out there. And those people have businesses that their kids don't want to run. And I do think this is the entrepreneur's moment to try and figure out how to come in, purchase some of those really well-loved businesses that make a dog food or spring. And I think you're going to see this unbelievable growth of entrepreneurs who are owners of a lot of businesses because they've gotten good at the ownership piece, and then they use, like you said, AI technology to downline those businesses, clean up some of the efficiencies of an old school business. But it's all about the people at the end.
Yeah, and I also think that, we've sort of gotten to this point where it's popular to be an entrepreneur. And I think that...
Well, good, because college isn't really a path.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to get into the educational system, but educational system is not what it used to be.
That's right.
A lot of people are going out there, they're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. They can't afford to buy a house. But I'm talking about like people that have this idea that, look, the federal government's not going to take care of me. Pensions are like a thing of the past. I think my dad's the only one that I know that got a pension from UPS, and like right after he retired, UPS cut off pensions. But people are realizing like, man, I got to have a side hustle, or I got to make money in other ways, or like I'm not going to be able to survive on Social Security if it's even around by the time that I retire. And so it's created this, and there's more people because of things like Instagram and social, they're being more vocal about their entrepreneurship, that it's created this idea that like everybody can go out and be an entrepreneur. And I think that hope is important, but I think the reality is more and more people need to understand that it is the most difficult thing that you will ever do in your entire life.
Yeah, maybe second only to raising toddlers, but...
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's something that is brutal. It could take you 20 years before you get to a point where you're actually successful with it. And so I think that like the picture has been painted where it's kind of easy. And I think more people need to be prepared for what they're about to embark on if they choose entrepreneurship, because you're not just talking about, nights, weekends, pouring every ounce of your blood, sweat, and tears and soul, making compromises, and having to, and even then, fail, get back up again. So you're dealing with the emotional component of it, which can be very dark and very lonely. And, and I've experienced it. I've gone through, on and off periods of time where I've been super, super depressed. But also I know who I am. I know that I'm not somebody that I can't go work for somebody. It's just who I am, and I know that about myself. So for me, there was never really a plan B. There was never, I dropped out of college. I never saw that for me personally as an opportunity to go and make something for myself. But other people believe that that's their path. And I think, look, if you're going to be a medical doctor, an attorney or something, you got to go to school for that. But not everything now requires a degree. It's just, you better have a plan and know what you're going after before you give up everything else and start to do it. And are you willing to sacrifice 10 years of making nothing?
I get mixed answers on this. I ask it a lot. Do you think entrepreneurs have to have it or not? And I do think like you either have it, that like internal, like mad scientist wiring to really want to be an entrepreneur. And then the question is, can it be groomed? Can it be made? Can it be developed in somebody? And I go back and forth and I get different answers. What say you?
I think that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Yeah. And so I think it is both. I really think it is both. But I think, we're not talking to the individual right now that's like sitting at home waiting to collect a check from the government that has zero ambition. And so now we could debate like whether that's, through the educational system or how they were raised with their parents. I know for myself, I just knew at a really young age, and I think it was how I was, I was raised, basically we weren't poor, but we were definitely like lower middle class. And I just remember my dad he would never buy clothes from us. I mean, his shoes were falling apart. And I just remember thinking at a young age, like, I don't want that. I didn't know, it wasn't necessarily even about money at that point, but I just knew I didn't want to have to say no to something because of money. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to have to go to a restaurant and order from the right side of the menu versus the left. I wanted to look at the left and go, I want that, and just be able to have that for dinner.
How do you restore that though generationally? If we give our kids everything all the time, they have no optics of poor or suffering. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a fickle balance because...
Well, I think we can't give our kids everything all the time. I think we have to create a situation where, as difficult as it is as a parent, we have to force them to struggle. We have to force them to earn things. You know, like my parents didn't have the money to buy me a car. So
they didn't. They didn't.
But what I did is I'm like, but I want a car. So I'm like, how can I get a car? I sold candy in my high school and,
of course, right.
You know, bought my first car. That. It's a $2,300 Volkswagen Super Beetle. And, you know, but I always was inclined to do something bigger and better. And I think a lot of people out there also feel that. They want to do something bigger and better. Mm-hmm. That's just the nature of humanity. Mm-hmm. We all want something better than what we have. Mm-hmm. But also understanding that there's a price to pay for it. And are you willing to pay the price? Because in some cases, that price is too high. And if you're not willing to pay it, that's okay. You don't have to be an entrepreneur and you don't have to be worth $1 billion, right? But you have to be willing to pay the price if that's something you feel that you want. So how do you create it? I think it's values in the home. And I think it just comes down to how do you create sort of a chip on your kid's shoulder, something that gives them the internal desire to go, F that, I'm going to prove you wrong. You know?
Yeah, while still having weights on their shoulders to keep their feet firmly on the floor. You know, I think it is that edge. Brian Buffini, who's a real estate coach, talks about what he calls the immigrant edge. And I actually have made this analysis that I think the closer you are to the immigrant, the closer you are to having the chip you just talked about.
Yeah.
And I think they now know that neurologically, the brain is wired to remember your ancestors' struggles. And so I think that immigrant edge is a real thing. I think it's innate, it's in us, it's remembered. There's an example of this where they took cows and put them inside a pasture that had a wired perimeter. And 3 generations later, they had the wiring down, but the cows knew not to cross the perimeter, even without the living cows from the generations before. So I believe that some of that chip you're talking about is just inherited. Yeah. And the further away we get from the immigrant, the more you see some of these people doing bad things in society, 22-year-olds living in their parents' basement who make bad choices.
Yeah, it's because they've been given everything. Yeah. They don't understand what hard work is and grit and fortitude and personal excellence and all of these things. Mm-hmm. I think people are starting to realize how important all these things are, but we've been
brainwashed by the internet, honestly.
To lead with our heart instead of our brain.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that there's a place for both, but at the end of the day, you know, I think it's both. To answer your question, I think it's both. Because I think that you can be born with a propensity to want to do something, you know, incredible with your life. But I believe that everybody was born to do something incredible with their lives. Are they willing to pay the price?
What's next for you?
Good question. Well, I think I've shared most of it with you. I mean, I'm committed to the mortgage industry and, you know, it's something that, and we've talked about it, it's like you go back and forth. I think this is an industry where you have to reinvent yourself on a regular basis. And also, too, like for anybody who was making 7 figures and now they're not, kind of a situation, you know, a lot of times it's just remembering who you are and going back to the things that got you there in the first place. But what happens when you start to make a lot of money is it's easy to get lazy. It's easy to stop doing those things. And so, I'm committed to this industry because it's totally changed my life. And it's an industry where when I look at all of the people that I've been able to help, not just people purchasing homes, but, when I look at agents that I've helped to make more money or to change their lifestyle, like that's super, super rewarding. I'm proud of what I do. What I'm not crazy about is the disloyalty, and I think that's
it hurts. It burns. It burns a little to feel that somebody is disloyal.
Yeah. But so many people are pointing the finger and saying, well, they're just disloyal, instead of going, how can I be better? How can I be better? Because the only reason they're disloyal is because you have not been doing what you need to do to stay in front of them or to be competitive. And that's it. And it's becoming more and more competitive. But mortgage industry.
I also think that's an excuse. I think that we all need to take a step back and say, and I can be loyal even in spite of maybe their failures. Yeah. Because I do think that part of that entrepreneurial thing is that once you have a business where it matters if the people who know, like, and trust you call, you understand what that side of the coin feels like. And everybody should experience that feeling of loyalty rewarded. And I think as a society, we have to earn it. Yes, we have to earn people time and time and time again and over and over and over again, just like you and your spouse earn each other every day. And also honor that loyalty. Like, everybody's doing the best they can. And I'm gonna honor that, because at the end of the day, the disloyal society is a broken society. The disloyal society is a society where people give a shit about their neighbor. They give a shit about their college friend. They give a shit about the teachers that are teaching their kids. And that hurts. That hurts society as a whole. That hurts our kids. It hurts culture. It hurts that family unit. And so I say, I agree, loyalty is it, and that we should, in fact, care a lot about it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
You got it. Thanks for having me. It's fun.